welcome to the Women's Soccer Show. I'm Allie.
And I'm Sara.
And holy moly, do we have a show for you. Everything happened this weekend. So we had our Champions League second leg of the semi-finals. That was chaos. The NWSL was chaos.
Yeah.
The WSL, less chaos.
Still a lot to talk about,
Still a lot to talk about. The Championship, chaos.
Ooh.
The Northern League, chaos. Just everything happened this weekend. So sit back, relax as we hit you through a bumper episode.
What an intro. I'm so excited to talk about the championship, but I'm most excited, of course, to talk about the Champions League, baby. So let's get into it. Arsenal did it.
No, you can start with that.
That's the intro. Arsenal did it. You know what? I don't know what, Allie, but I think that we didn't believe enough. Because, yes, we thought this would be the closest game.
Who is the we? I didn't care. I didn't have a horse in this race. I had no skin in the game and every other metaphor simile that you can come up with.
I don't know when I became such a pessimistic fan. Because I used to sit there and be like, we're going to win. Period. The end. Whether it was the U.S. women's national team, whoever I was supporting, I would sit there and be like, we're going to win. And you know what? I gave up. I was like, it's going to be Barcelona, Lyon. It is. And you know what? It's not, everybody, because if you missed it, you missed a screamer of a match because Arsenal are returning to the Champions League final for the first time in 18 years. The one and only time that they made the Champions League final before was in 2007. That was their one and only win.
And fun fact on that one, who was one of the mascots in that game? I'll give you a hint. They currently play for Arsenal.
Leah Williamson. She was so cute talking after the game. Did you hear her talk about this?
I did.
She was saying that the last time Arsenal were there, she was watching them and walking out with them. And she was giving Kim Little so much praise, which we also are going to talk about.
Of course.
She was like, and now I got to play alongside Kim Little, like the legend of Arsenal. And this is a player that deserves to have played in 7 or 8 Champions League finals. And she doesn't get the credit she deserves because she played on an international squad that didn't get the light of day, which is also very true and we've said as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, I mean, when is Leah Williamson not a class act? But it was such a class act of her to just, and well highlighted as well. Like Arsenal's midfield was outstanding and Kim Little played one of the best games I've seen her play in years.
Yeah, she got player of the match, quite rightly so. And that was presented to her by Jem Beattie, another Arsenal legend. So it was just like this perfect like storm of bringing it all together. The sad thing is people were saying that if Arsenal do go on ahead and win the Champions League, that would be the moment for Kim Little to retire. I don't think she will because she did just sign another year. But
yeah,
it would be a moment to go out on to be like, I'm done.
I do think that we find that most people, after they win something like that, they don't have the feeling of like, I'm done. They have the feeling of like, oh, I like this. Let's go do this again because this was good. We'll see.
Not the England Euros team. Many of those retired after. They were like, well, no, we're done.
Well, let's talk about it because this was, I mean, there were 2 leg 2 semifinals. Obviously, there's that one. And then there's the Chelsea-Barcelona semifinal. We're going to talk about both of them, but we're going to mainly focus on this one because, my goodness, Lyon crumbled in leg 2. Chelsea crumbled, period.
And I have some questions about Chelsea that are not in our notes that I'm just going to scare Sarah with, so...
Good. Well, I already have a lot of things I want to talk about Chelsea, and particularly Chelsea fans. Okay, so first and foremost, we have to start with Lyon and Arsenal because Arsenal officially advanced to the Champions League final. They won leg 2, 4-1, which means that they advanced on a 5-3 aggregate. I mean, where to even begin, Allie? We talked about the midfield. Should we start there? I think we should maybe start there because Arsenal's midfield was an absolute revelation in this game. And we'll talk about Lyon because obviously there's 2 sides of the coin here. But just to give credit where credit is due, Kim Little, Mariana Caldente, and Frida Maanum were impeccable in that central midfield. All 3 played so well. You said yourself, Kim Little got player of the match. I think that's the best game we've seen her play in ages. Mariona Caldente.
What a signing.
What a signing!
You got
right?
her for free, Arsenal. You got her for free.
An absolute bargain. Not just the goal, which, by the way, was stunning
Beautiful.
that she scored.
Absolutely beautiful.
But it's just the control, the possession, the element that she adds to that midfield. Those three were in full control of this game. It was all Arsenal's midfield. It was glorious. I mean, it was great all around, but those three deserve a lot of the credit for this win.
100%. We've said it before that games are lost and won a lot of the time through the midfield. And Arsenal's just were connecting, and it was beautiful, and it was just beautiful from front to back, to be honest. But that midfield with the link up to get those goals was just outstanding.
Lyon, on the other hand, this was a massacre, and it was from minute one. Like, I texted you, Allie. I was like, this game is utter chaos. Arsenal scored. They went up 1-0 within the first 5 minutes of this game. It started open, and it was just absolute chaos. Lyon never settled down. They never settled in. They looked the most disjointed and tired I maybe have ever seen Lyon look, and they couldn't figure it out. And it wasn't one player's fault. It was across the entire field.
I was going to say, I would say it was all of their fault. It was...
Yeah, they just couldn't connect.
They just couldn't... Yeah, exactly. And that was the thing. And when we talk about Chelsea-Barcelona, we'll talk about how fluid Barcelona were. That's what it felt like with Arsenal. I think the biggest thing for Arsenal is that they had DVD back.
Van Domselaar in goal. Yeah.
Yeah, she is such a star for them and commands her back line. And you saw Endler tried with her back line. Carpenter tried. But those are the only two people I would say honestly tried. The rest of them...
I mean, I don't want to say like didn't try. All the players were trying very hard, and they did it, and they did their best. But they all looked very tired, and they looked disjointed, and it certainly made it seem like... Well, it certainly at the end very much looked like Lyon dropped their heads, for sure. And that's never a good thing to see in a Champions League semifinal. Because also, you can look at this game, and it's not like they didn't have opportunities. It wasn't just Arsenal's in full control, in full possession. Lyon can't get one opportunity. This game was open. Like, Arsenal did control the majority of possession, and they did control the game. But it's not like Lyon didn't have opportunity on opportunity that they could have scored. They could have equalized before halftime. There were a lot of moments that they could have put the ball in the back of the net, and Lyon just simply couldn't capitalize. I mean, the stats do really tell the story. Lyon 19 shots, 5 on target. Arsenal 9 shots, 6 on target. So you look at the shots on target, it's pretty equal.
Yeah, it was. But like I said, it was that controlled back line with DVD at the helm. She did give me a heart attack at one point because she punched when she should have caught, which is one of my biggest bugbears with goalkeepers.
She gave me a heart attack in the first half when she open-handed slapped the ball when she should have punched it. Yeah, and that was nerves. But, I mean, to say this, like, we're going to preview the final, Arsenal made a lot of mistakes in the back line that Barcelona will punish them for.
For sure.
And Lyon did not.
For sure. You know, I thought Katie McCabe was absolutely excellent, was on it.
She had a goal line save.
Yeah, like, defensively was absolutely fantastic. You know, Catley Williamson, Emily Fox, my goodness, was up and down that pitch. Just, I have so much praise for this Arsenal team because they got it together.
Yeah, they really did. It was fun to watch Caitlin Ford go against Ellie Carpenter on that wing. That was a fun little matchup that we got to witness. I do wonder, I mean, just speaking of retirement, and wonder kind of if Wendy Renard is close to done.
I think she's close to done. Honestly, I do. I think she's got a Euros, and it's looking like, and we'll talk about it when we're in Around the World, that she may get another league title under her belt, and then she'd be done.
Maybe.
I wouldn't be surprised after the Euros. I don't think she'll announce her retirement before the Euros.
Before we move on from that, I mean, I don't really know what else to say about Lyon. There's really nothing else to say. It was like a full, we could break it down tactically, but at the end of the day, they didn't just crumble tactically, they crumbled mentally and emotionally, and it was just a full evisceration, quite honestly. Not as much as Barcelona eviscerated Chelsea. Before we move on from Arsenal, I do just have to say this. Arsenal were 6th in the WSL when Jonas Eidevall was fired. And now they statistically are still in contention for a WSL title. And they are the only English club in the Champions League final.
Should we talk about the other semi-final second leg? Chelsea fans, cover your ears now.
Let's. What a spanking this was. Like, we thought Barcelona provided a spanking in the quarters. Which was worse for Barcelona's opponents, the quarters or the semis?
I think both, to be fair. Both were pretty terrible.
Because Barcelona ended up winning 10-2 aggregate against Wolfsburg.
I would say technically that's worse. However, and don't come at me, German league fans, I would argue that Chelsea is of a higher standard than Wolfsburg. So therefore, does that not hurt more? And I say that because if it had been, say, a Bayern or an Eintracht, Wolfsburg have been so inconsistent in the league. They've managed to pull it back in the latter half of the league, but they've been so inconsistent in the league, I would say that Chelsea are of a higher standard. So therefore, does that not hurt more?
Listen, I think if you expected Barcelona to win, I still don't think you expected this. This is shocking.
I thought Chelsea would come at them more because this was the home tie. This is at Stamford Bridge. This, it was a big crowd, mainly of Chelsea fans. You would think that they would come at it a bit more because, let's be honest, they had nothing to lose. They were already down by 3 goals. So what harm is it, being a bit more open, if you're trying to go? But it didn't feel like they even went for it. They just felt really timid and tepid. And Barcelona went, oh, great, this is the same Chelsea that played us at our gaff. We're going to have a good go at it. And they did.
Yeah. So Barcelona won both legs with the score of 4-1. They advanced with an aggregate of 8-2. Wow. I mean, we're not going to get deep into the details of the game because it felt like, you just said, very similar to Leg 1, which we've already spoken about. But there are some Chelsea-related things that we want to get into here. Do you feel bad for Chelsea at all? That's a stupid question. The answer is no.
I do not speak, for I get into trouble.
Well, just think about, I don't know. I mean, I don't feel bad for them. But when you think about it in the sense that this is a Chelsea team that's won the league how many times in a row? I've lost count.
Well, this, all right. Let's throw in the question. I was going to do this at the end, but let's because you've opened it up now.
Let's do it. This is the most interesting thing. So let's talk about it.
I have been saying, and I've been getting yelled at by Chelsea fans all season, that this Chelsea team have been playing worse than I have ever seen a Chelsea team. And the fact that they're dominating the WSL is because the standard as a whole has dropped this season. If you look at previous encounters against Barcelona, right, they've faced Barcelona a lot of times, apart from the final in 2021 where they got beat 4-0. It has been 1 or 2 goals in it. You look at the first leg of the semi-final in the 2023 game, Barcelona beat them 1-0, and then it was a draw 1-1 at the Barcelona leg. You look at last year's, it was Chelsea beat Barcelona in the Barcelona leg 1-0 and then lost 2-0 at home. But that was the aggregate of 2-1, meaning it was 1 goal in it. So the last few times they've played them, there's been 1 goal in it. There were 6 goals in it this time round. Does that indicate what people have been saying, including myself all season, that there has been a drop? And is it because they lost Emma Hayes and are still trying to get used to Bompasta?
That there's been a drop in Chelsea?
Yes.
I mean, for the record, it very well could be both, right? And I think that's probably the answer. But if you want to just focus on Chelsea, like if both are true, then that means that Chelsea's have gotten worse. I think the question about the WSL is fascinating because, look, Chelsea didn't just lose Emma Hayes, and they're not just getting used to Sonia Bompasser. They also lost a ton of players. This is a team that is a very different team. While they do have a lot of similar core players, it is a very different team than previous Chelsea years that we're used to. And it's changed, I think, more than we're used to from year to year. And I think this then brings in the topic that you have also brought up on this podcast of the idea that the top teams in the WSL are, as a whole, worse. And just the competition that Chelsea are facing as a whole in the WSL are worse. I think it's interesting because then you look below the top teams and it's like everybody else has gotten better. Like the bottom and the middle of the WSL has raised, but the top has dropped. I think Arsenal are kind of like the team with the asterisks because half of the season they were playing.
Shockingly.
Their current head coach wasn't their current head coach at the beginning of the season, right?
No, she was his assistant, and then he got fired, and she was interim.
But that feels like so long ago. I was like, that was this year, right?
And then she got made permanent in January.
Right, exactly. And like I said, since then, they have climbed, but it's taken them a while. And so I think it's very fair to say that as a whole, the standard at the top of the WSL has declined. City is certainly not what they used to be. United seem to be not improving, but not dropping for the past couple of years. And so I think that what you're saying is valid. It's kind of like, well, if the shoe fits, then yeah, because you look at the result against Barcelona, and Barcelona got better, but did they get that much better?
6 goals better. That's
a big a lot of better, right?
Yeah, and we're not going to get into the nitty gritty and the minutiae of it all, but it did look like Chelsea was scared and they got carved up, and they held them off for 20 minutes, and then Bonmati did Bonmati things.
Can we talk about Pajor for a second and Pina?
We talk about Pina very quickly in the fact that she was clearly getting...
Are you talking about her celebration?
She was getting stick, clearly. So she was there, like, tapping the badge, and then Putellas came over and was like, no!
Putellas was such a mama, like, such a captain. But then did you see what she did after? Well, after Putellas walked away, she turned around to the fans and gave the, like, L, like, loser symbol. People were not happy about it, but Hey, fair is fair. If you're gonna taunt a player, don't expect them to just like take it. They can give it back. I'm all for that. That's fine by me.
But yeah, Pina and Pajor have been phenomenal, and they are children, and so they're only going to get even better.
Yeah, I mean, she's just been absolutely outstanding. Okay, we need to talk about a little bit more about Chelsea and these Chelsea fans, because I'm ready to throw some hands here. I was going to say. Because I heard telltale that some of you over there across the pond are talking negatively about our queen, Naomi Girma.
Yeah, Sarah texted me.
The heir to the Becky Sauerbrunn throne, the next captain of the U.S. women's national team, and you dare speak ill of her? No. I have things to say.
Yeah, Sarah sent me a message being like, I hate Chelsea now. Oh, just kidding. I'm like, no, I'm just going to crop that and put that on socials and be like, I've converted her to the hatred.
Well, so I never know what's true, what makes it over here. So I heard that, and I was like, Allie, is it true that this is what Chelsea fans are saying? And I received confirmation.
There has been a certain sect of Chelsea fans who have been blaming Naomi Girma, and it's not her fault. She's still pretty injured, to be honest, and she's only in there because Bjorn got injured.
I mean, I think it's so rude. It's just of everybody.
It's because of how much Chelsea paid for her, I think, has really got people, because they're comparing Caldente, who was free, to Arsenal, to Naomi Girma, who's the most expensive player in the world.
Here's all I'm going to say, though.
You do it.
Number one, this will pay off in dividends. If you drive her out with your, I don't know what to call it, English charm, you will regret it until the day that you die. Listen, Naomi Girma, you just said she's not fully healthy. She came back from injury, and her first game back from injury, she was tossed into the middle of a Champions League semifinal against Barcelona. First of all, Sonia Bonpastor, that is not good player management. Second of all, fans, cut the girl a break. Like, the normal way to ramp back up is you get your trainings in, and then you're ready for game times. You get 15 minutes at the end of the game, here and there, and you start to ramp up your minutes at the end of the game in not super high pressure situations so that you can feel more comfortable in a game setting, because no amount of training can mimic a game. Just period, the end. You need to ramp back up in game mode. And so for her to be thrown back out there to the Wolves coming out of injury, that is the opposite of setting your player up for success. So if anybody is holding that against Naomi Girma, you can go to hell. Let's talk about this final, because Barcelona, you asked in this question, like, are Barcelona that much better, or Chelsea this much worse, or both? This is a bit of a scary prospect for Arsenal. What do you expect from this game?
I mean, it's going to be furious regardless. I think they play very interesting sort of similar styles. Obviously, one more effective than the other. So we talk about like matchups.
It is sort of
it's
similar.
Sort of similar, isn't it? Like
it's going to be a battle of the midfields for sure. If Arsenal can't win control of the midfield, they don't have to dominate possession, because at a certain point you're not going to dominate possession against Barcelona. But if they can't control the midfield when they need to at certain moments in the game, it's over. This game will be won and lost in the midfield, hands down. But I get why you say that they're similar, because they're very reliant on that midfield core, and they both play very... It's fun that Barcelona plays open. They both play very open forms of football now. They're teams that can score a ton of goals when they want to. And I feel like they both exploit the flanks in very similar ways too. So
I think it's going to be whoever scores first. I think that's going to be the determiner, because whoever scores first, I think, will put the game in cruise control for their team, and whether the other team can pick it back up. I still think it's going to be Barcelona. I'm sorry, Arsenal. I still think it's going to be Barcelona.
I really need to write these things down. Did you had Barcelona picked? You had Barcelona over Lyon.
I've said Barcelona all the way long. I have said Barcelona.
Okay, well, I had Chelsea and Lyon in the final.
How'd that work out for you?
So now I get to repick. Obviously, I've never been more happy to be wrong. And I don't know. Dare I say believe? Let's go around the world. Around the world, around the world. To Spain, Real Madrid have moved within a point of Barcelona after their win this weekend. Barcelona do have a game in hand, but the race is tightening up. Atletico Madrid also won to keep a hold on third.
To France, and Lyon remain 10 points clear at the top of the table after their midweek win. PSG could only manage a draw, which has allowed Paris FC to edge closer after they beat Fleury 91.
And to Germany, Bayern Munich are cruising to their title after their win this week. Wolfsburg remains in second. However, Eintracht Frankfurt are chasing for that second guaranteed Champions League spot.
And finally to Italy, despite losing their last game, Juve are your new champions of Serie A. Inter Milan and Roma both clinched those last Champions League spots.
To the WSL and the championship, we're going to close out the podcast with the NWSL. But before we do, we've got a lot to discuss in the first and second divisions of English women's football, because, Allie, do you want to start with the WSL or the championship? Because the championship is hot.
The championship is spicy, so let's hit...
It's hotting up, as we say.
It is. So let's hit a couple of WSL points, and then we'll talk championship, because that leads us nicely in.
Are you foreshadowing?
I am foreshadowing.
Allie just winked at me. All right, so let's get into it. The WSL, officially after this weekend, Crystal Palace are going to be relegated on points. They cannot reach Leicester City or Aston Villa, who are the next two teams sitting with 16 points. So Crystal Palace, they can't stay in the WSL. They come up for 1 year and they head right back down.
Yeah, they had to beat Chelsea in the midweek and they lost 4-0, and then they had to beat West Ham and they got thrashed 7-1. It was a great game for me, I have to say. When I was there, it was fantastic. So yeah, it's been confirmed they'll win the championship next season. It makes me sad because I am sick of this 1 year up, 1 year down.
This is what 2 teams promoted and 2 teams relegated will help with, I feel like. Because, yeah, you could still go up and go back down, but I think it'll make things a lot easier.
Yeah, I mean, the league does need to do more things to stop this from happening, but at the end of the day, it is down to the investment from the club. And I know Crystal Palace tried, but they tried a bit too late. And also, it doesn't help that it's such a short... I think having more teams will help, because having it as a short season, you can finally get your run and have a flow of good games. But if you're already 7 games in and you've had a bad run, that's you done.
Yeah.
So there are many things the league can do, but unfortunately, we say goodbye to Crystal Palace, and hopefully they'll be able to get back up next season.
The top is still not statistically over. Chelsea, Arsenal, and United have played 19 games, so they've got 3 more to play. They'll play midweek, and then they'll play the second to last and the last weekend, of course. But Arsenal sitting with 45 points. They're just 6 points below Chelsea. Both of those teams with 3 games to play. So really, technically, anything can happen. We also, I mean, like, who doesn't have Chelsea United circled on their calendar?
I know that's going to be such a good game. But talking of great games, the middle of the table showed this week, and just what Sarah was saying earlier, which is that that has improved massively. I would say from 4th down to, well, not 4th because it's currently Man City, maybe 5th have shown mass amount of improvement. And we saw it in Spurs versus Liverpool, Brighton versus Everton. They were brilliant games. If you haven't watched them, go watch the highlights, go watch the replays, even if you know the scores, because it was just end-to-end stuff. It was the best football I've seen Spurs do, dare I say, the last couple of weeks. Ended up being a 2-2 against Liverpool. Liverpool have done really well after letting Matt Beard go, so clearly that was a managerial issue because they haven't brought anybody else in since, player-wise. Question is, do Spurs need to do the same? Because clearly their manager, who's been with them for a season and a half, 2 years now, isn't cutting it with the squad that he has. So I see him seeing out the season and then maybe they will say goodbye.
I wouldn't be surprised.
And then the game from the WSL highlight, other than the 7-1 thrashing, has to be Brighton Everton. Talk about two really well-matched teams.
Yeah.
Everton announced that friend of the pod, Brian Sorensen, has had his contract extended, so he'll be with them for another 2 years.
Well deserved. He's done such a great job with that team. Yeah.
100%. I can't wait to see what he's going to grow and build with them. So he's going to be there till 2027, which is fantastic news. And Everton almost, edged it. They went ahead. They almost had the draw. And then Nikita Paris came up clutch and scored an injury time winner for Brighton.
Wild.
And again, this has got to be Brighton's best season.
Oh, without question.
They can finish anywhere between 5th and 7th, which is fantastic.
Yeah, they're currently in 5th, right behind City. Not right behind City, like 14 points behind City. But technically, City is 4th and Brighton are 5th. So yeah, I guess technically they are right behind City. My award for surprises of the season in the WSL definitely goes to yours and Mike's squad. So Brighton and West Ham. And I know you were sitting there 3 years ago being like, West Ham's going to be great next year. And it took 3 years.
It really did.
But it happened, Allie.
It really did. Because we also could finish 5th. That's the amazing thing right now. After our terrible start to the season, with our run of games, and if the other games go our way, we could finish 5th, which will be our highest position finish. We can have our highest points total. We've currently scored the most amount of goals we've ever scored. Our goal scorer, Vivia C, is currently tied for most goal contributions in the fact that she scored 6 and given 7 assists, which is 13 goal contributions, which is tied with like Chelsea, Man United players. Like, I'm buzzing.
We got 2 more weekends left of the WSL, not including the couple of midweek games that we mentioned. And for this coming weekend, a reminder to everybody, my selections will be in. I will be making my picks to see if the WSL is predictable.
And I still need to do my NWSL table, which I will do.
Yeah,
you will do that.
All right, but before we move on, let's talk about the championship, because the second division of English women's football is in the race of all races at the top.
Yes. So for anybody who hasn't been following the championship, where you been? So for a long time, 8 teams all had the same points. Also, talk about the Great Escape very quickly. At the bottom end of that table, Portsmouth for a long time looked like they were going to do with Crystal Palace, straight up, straight down. And they managed to turn the last 3 games and run results in their favour and have condemned Sheffield United to relegation. Portsmouth have done it. They are mathematically safe and they will fight into the championship for another season. So talk about the Great Escape. But the top of the table, it's now come down to 2. And they play each other on the final game of the season. You could write that. You could not write that.
That's exactly how I would write it, actually.
And so in this corner, it is Birmingham City. And in this corner, it is London City Lionesses.
And Michelle Kang's Empire.
Yes, her one English club. So Birmingham City obviously have been in the WSL before. They went down a couple of seasons ago, and this is the closest they've really come to coming back. They have a lot of young talent that they've signed, but they also signed some amazing veterans, specifically in January. So we saw Emily Van Egmond go from San Diego Wave to them. We also saw Adi French go over to them, which I think everybody was like, huh? But it's been fantastic. And along with the two Quins and the other players that they've got, they've really hung on. They are currently second and are 2 points behind London City, who are technically the underdogs because they have no Big Brother club. For anybody who doesn't know, we know most women's teams over here have a men's team that financially supports them. They don't have that. Their support is Michelle Kang, who signed superstars. We talked about it earlier in the season with Aslani and Jakobsen, and they signed a load of amazing players, and they are currently in control of their destiny because they just need to draw. As long as they don't lose this Sunday, they will be coming up to the WSL.
See, this is when I want 2 teams relegated and 2 teams promoted, because I'm sorry, I'm sick of watching Villa plummet in front of my eyes. I would rather see them and Crystal Palace go down and get to watch both Birmingham City and London City in the WSL next year. And I know that's like a big, maybe bad thing to say, but that's how I feel. Like, these are 2 exciting clubs on the rise, as opposed to 2 clubs who have been falling, who obviously have a lot more than just one issue to figure out. And it's very clear which is, more exciting to watch.
As West Ham's not 11th this season, I agree with you.
Yes. What a game this is going to be, though, Allie. Let's tell people how they can watch it.
You can watch it. It's going to be on YouTube, so you'll be able to watch it on that play. It's also geo unlocked, so you can watch it anywhere in the world. And it's going to be an absolute cracking game, I have to say.
It's on Sunday, let me add.
And my heart wants it to be London City Lionesses.
Yeah.
Even though they came from Millwall, but I still have a lot of love for them.
Well, we've been following them for a while now, so I get that.
My head wants it to be Birmingham because that will be a much easier away day for me. Just for practical reasons.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
Birmingham's only like an hour and a half away, whereas London City's Kent, which will be like another 4 hours.
I'm a little torn for exactly the reason you said, that both of these teams have, big time players who probably joined this club with the assumption that, hey, let's get a group of 2, 3 big time players who could play in the Division 1, but let's go to this team at the Division 2 that we know is investing, and let's give 1 year and promote ourselves. And so I do feel, I don't know, I worry for the team that doesn't get promoted if they're going to be able to keep those big superstars around. I certainly hope so, but I do wonder. I don't want to put a damper on it, but that's why I can't pick, but I do want some London City gear still.
And then finally, to end this bit on European football, a bit of a downer, but we have to talk about it because we never shy away from the tough stuff. The Northern League, the FAW Northern League, has been so exciting. I went to my first Northern League game a couple of weeks ago to watch Nottingham Forest take on Liverpool Feds. And it's phenomenal. It's so good to see in the 3rd tier of English football. And again, we've seen the end of the season last weekend, and it went down to the wire between Nottingham Forest and Wolverhampton Wolves. And this is the first year that there's not a playoff, so it would have been a straight promotion for whoever won, and Nottingham Forest were the victors, and it was so close, and everybody at Wolves should be so proud of themselves, until it got announced right after the game had finished that Wolverhampton Wolves never bothered to put in their paperwork for the championship, meaning that if they had got first place, they would have had to forego their promotion.
Unbelievable.
And it was deliberate. This wasn't somebody forgot. This wasn't the...
You mean to say that somebody at the top didn't want the club in the championship?
Correct.
And why do you think that is? Because of money?
Already know it, because the owner has already been called out, and he's come out and said, well, the men were on the verge of relegation in February when we had to submit the paperwork, so we didn't want the extra expense, so we didn't. But they also didn't tell the players they didn't. So the players have been leaving their guts on the pitch, thinking that there was a shot of promotion. They were so close. It was goal difference, I think, in the end, or maybe like 1 game in it. And they did all of that to be told at the end of the season, well, you wouldn't have been promoted anyway, regardless of what you did, because the men might have got relegated and we didn't want to spend the money.
It is terrible. And if you're listening and you want to hear more, Allie's got an entire, we'll call it a mini-sode.
Yep.
On this that's going up on Patreon. Allie, tell us a little bit about who you've got and when that can drop.
Yep, so that's going to probably go up Wednesday morning, so you can listen to these simultaneously. So yeah, no, we'll come up.
Maybe not simultaneously.
Why not? One ear for one,
maybe
one
back
ear
to
for the
back.
other. But back to back. I'm talking to Nick, who is on the Wolves Women podcast. He's also big into their supporters group, and he was the one that hinted at it initially, and then it got confirmed by two of their players. So me and him are going to hash it out. It'll be up on our Patreon, this mini-sode, where we talk about why this happened, how this was allowed to happen, and what Wolves can do in the future to make sure it doesn't happen again.
All right, patreon.com/thewoso show. Speaking of Division 2 and lower division football, Allie, it's time to talk NWSL. And that sounds like a bad transition. That sounds like I'm trashing the NWSL. I am not. As anybody who knows me would know, I would never do such a thing.
It's not.
Here is what and why that transition makes sense. Because the NWSL has announced that they have applied to create a second division here in the United States. Allie, they're planning to launch a Division 2 league, which of course will be a second-tier professional league for women's soccer here in the U.S. They are hoping and expecting to begin play in 2026. So a really short run-up, everybody. That would be next year. And they've said the intention of this, of course, is to provide a pathway for player development and a place for NWSL clubs to field reserve teams. There's a lot behind this. They wouldn't require every NWSL club to have a team by 2026. They'd have a little more time. So there's some specifics we can get into, but initial thoughts on that, Allie.
I have been crying out for this for so long with the NWSL. We have a similar system in the UK with the Premier League, and it's starting to come up into the WSL, but this is what I've been crying out for, you guys having an academy system, for having that stopgap between college and professional football, because especially if you're bringing in players, as we talked about, that have skipped the college thing entirely and have gone straight into play. This is what you guys have need. Do I think it's a bit quick, 2026? Yeah, I think you guys could have maybe thought about it a bit longer and maybe the 2027 season. But the idea of it for me is brilliant. It's what I've been saying you guys have needed for so long.
I agree. Let me just say that. First and foremost, I agree with everything you just said. Second of all, there's a lot of little pieces underneath that I find interesting because I wonder what the thought process on this was. I do think this is a direct response to the fact that the USL Super League was created, the other Division 1 women's soccer league here in this country right now, and the USL Super League already had a built-in pyramid. They created the Super League on the backs of their pre-professional league. So they already had developmental USLW league, which has grown year over year and is now considered the top summer league for these college players to play in as developmental programs. We've gotten to see some players in both the USL Super League and the NWSL now who have played in the USLW league, and it's become a launching pad. And I really do think this is a direct response from the NWSL to that pyramid that the USL has proved works very well. Now, that's great because that just means, hey, better soccer, better pyramids, better development across the entire country. So that's fantastic. I think it could impact the NWSL in a positive way because we have seen the average age drop. We're seeing a lot of 17, 18, 19-year-olds in the NWSL, and that's not necessarily bad, but those are players who otherwise would be developing in college, and perhaps now they can be developing in the second division of the NWSL, and there won't be this missing gap. I think it's really fast. The NWSL is trying to move at lightning speed in terms of expansion in their Division 1, and now they're moving at lightning speed in the lower division. And I think this is all great as long as it doesn't come at the expense of, your basic HR player safety, because we've seen from all of the past, and let's learn from it, that rapid growth of leagues means that a lot of that gets left behind. So I guess all is well. I still see this. I still see the future of U.S. soccer to be that the NWSL and the USL will merge and create one big pyramid. And then the biggest question becomes, how does the collegiate system, which is essentially the informal training ground and Division II of professional soccer in this country right now, how does that then counterbalance an actual Division II when you have it? I wonder.
Yeah. I don't know how that's going to work, to be honest. That's throwing a spanner in my works, but I'm glad that you guys are considering a pyramid formation, because I do think that's the best way to help grow these players. So I'm excited.
And probably eventually means relegation, which is fun.
Yeah. Everybody loves a relegation battle.
Everyone loves relegation. Until it happens to you.
Until it happens to you. Exactly. Exactly. But speaking of NWSL, can we talk about this weekend? Because what the actual hell? I'm glad that this was not the week I tried to do predictions.
I know, you would have been like 0 for 7.
I was like, what the actual hell? Okay, so it started off with a midweek game where Portland absolutely smacked Gotham.
Yeah.
4-1.
That was a shock.
No one expected that.
We literally, this was funny timing too, Allie, because we talked about the Cascadia rivalry, right? The Seattle-Portland rivalry on our podcast that drops on Wednesday. And we talked about how Portland, they'd scored 3 goals across the first 5 games of the series. So we spent last week's podcast talking about where are the goal scorers for Portland? And then they played Tuesday night. Our episode drops Wednesday morning. And what do I wake up to Wednesday morning when our episode drops? Portland smacks Gotham 4-1, and they score 4 goals. They more than double the amount of goals they'd scored in the previous 5 games in one singular game. And it was just a funny moment. Portland, keep going, because that was a wild result to kick it off.
So that was wild. And so I was like, all right, okay, see what you're doing here. And then Orlando Angel City happened.
Right.
Okay. And so they are not my team, but I do have a soft spot for Orlando because of certain players that they have and stuff like that.
And I will defend you and say you had that before they became a top team.
Correct. Can I point that out? I'm not a glory hunter. I've always had a soft spot for Orlando. They're just not my team.
Some could argue that Allie had a soft spot for Orlando because they like bad teams.
It's true. It's true. You ask I pick a team and they're the West Ham of that league.
Yeah.
So I wake up and I woke up in the middle of the night and I saw that Angel City were beating them 2-0. And I'm like, Orlando, what is happening?
Yeah. And then NWSL Dark kicked in. Yeah. The sun went down.
Yeah.
And something changed.
Katie Zellum got her first goal for Angel City, and that was great. And then I woke up and they'd won 3-2. And I was like, It was incredible. Both Marta and Barbara Band are doing wonderful things. Unfortunately, their winning goal was an own goal.
If it wasn't for Champions League, that would have been our game of the week, because that was true NWSL Dark in all its glory.
It does, but then it carries on. That's the thing. NWSL After Dark the entire game.
Yeah, because also with Gotham's performance on Tuesday, they're playing Washington Spirit, who are coming off of a big win against Orlando. It's like, who's going to win in that? Between those two, it's got to be Washington. No, incorrect. Gotham win 3-0. What in the world? Although that one, I will say I've said this for 3 years now. That's become a really fun kind of East Coast gritty rivalry that, you kind of have to expect anything. And then the only undefeated team remaining, Kansas City, they fall to who?
North Carolina.
North Carolina, who's been like the worst team in the league so far. Oh my goodness. I mean, the somewhat predictable San Diego beat Chicago. So sorry, Chicago. Goodness gracious.
Bay and Seattle were equal. But then we get to the other Portland game. And I want to talk about this very quickly because this was all over my feed. So Portland played Racing and it ended 3-3.
Oh, goodness me. Yeah. 2 penalty kicks as well.
2 pens.
I'm so sorry, Racing fans, because that was a brutal. And for anybody who didn't see, Portland equalized 3-3 in the 10th minute of stoppage time at the end of the game on a last-minute penalty kick. What a brutal way to lose those 3 points. Because, oh my goodness.
Absolutely. And then got even more chaotic because I don't know if you've seen this. Again, I might be throwing something out at you. But Jessie Fleming and Ari Borges, the racing midfielder, expressed frustration with how this draw was dealt with by the officials. So Fleming has made a statement about it, and Ari Borges not only argued, got a post-match red card for arguing with the officials. This is where this game was crazy.
Hold on though, because also I need more clarity on this. Jessie Fleming released a statement, didn't speak to the media, like released a statement online, correct? Is that what you're saying?
No, this has come from her post-match.
Okay, and the same with Ari Borges, or was she arguing with the refs on the field?
No, she was arguing with the refs after the final whistle and has been given a post-match red card.
Okay, because I thought you were going to say that they both were saying this in press conferences, but one of them was given a card, and I was like, this is not okay.
No. So Jessie Fleming said, probably the most frustrating match I've ever been a part of as a player, so I think the league needs to look at that closely. I think Louisville should be embarrassed. Them are fighting words, Fleming. They are fighting words.
Oh my goodness. Well, let me clarify. What does she think Louisville should be embarrassed? Okay. When she means, does she mean the players? Does she mean the fans? Does she mean the city? Does she mean, what is she?
So the
I need to know.
Fuller statement, like this to come from, somebody's kindly transcribed it for me. Reflecting first on our performance, I think we played into their hands a little bit and kind of dug ourselves into a hole. I do think that the match can't keep happening in this league. I think it's embarrassing. It alters the match. It alters really the sport. So yeah, I think it's embarrassing for the league. I think she's talking about the officials here. I think that's
what I figured, because I was like, why is it suddenly embarrassing for Louisville? It should be embarrassing for the league.
Well, she does say it, because she says, I think it's embarrassing for Louisville as a club and very frustrating for us as players. So, I mean, I'm very proud we were able to find our way to come back from that and get points out of that game, because, yeah, to be honest, probably that and to be honest, probably one of, if not the most frustrating matches I've ever been a part of as a player. So I think the league needs to look at that closely. And yeah, I think Louisville should be embarrassed.
Oh, I see. She's saying that Louisville should be embarrassed by their display. Like how they were on the field at Providence Park. Yeah.
Yeah.
My goodness. These teams heard me say that I was slightly bored by the NWSL 2-3 weeks ago, and they have responded in fine fashion. It was anything but boring this weekend. Wow, we are in full NWSL swing. I love this moment when it gets going. And now, let's go summertime.
Yep.
Summer of NWSL.
It is, and what that does for the current table is KC Current are still top, but that's sheerly to alphabetical, because they have now won as many as Orlando, lost as many as Orlando. They have same amount of points, same amount of goals for, same amount of goals against.
Hilarious. When you said alphabetical, I was like, there's no way it's actually alphabetical. It is literally alphabetical. What a fun weekend. There's a lot of fun ones coming up again this coming weekend for the NWSL. All right, and that's it for us here today. What an episode. What a crazy amount of stuff going on in the soccer world. What a fun time for us. Thank you, everybody, for listening. And we'll be back, as always, next Wednesday for the Women's Soccer Show. I've been Sarah.
And I've been Allie.
Thanks, everyone.
Good night.
This podcast was edited by Monkey Hill Media. Visit monkeyhillmedia.com for more information.